Hello everyone, welcome back to my another class. In the last class we had discussed about the instructions, how additional modes of instruction set and also the basic input output operations and the assembly language, isn't it? So in this class or in this video we shall discuss about the additional instructions that we will be using in your machine languages. So what are the additional instructions that you will be using in your machine languages? The very first instruction is logic instructions. As you already know, the logical operations can also be performed on your instruction set, which might be the logical operations that can be performed is and, or, not. So in the previous sections you had discussed or you have already known that the instruction can perform the operations such as add, subtract, move, return. These are all the some of the operations that an instruction is going to perform. So likewise the instruction is also capable of implementing the logical operations also. For example, and operation, or operation, or not operation. So what might be the example that you are, how you can write an instruction to carry out an logical operation. Suppose as you were writing before, that is add R1 comma R2, likewise same as it is you can write it as the logic operation. Suppose not destination. It is understood that you need to perform the not operation to a destination operand. Fine. Again you can also write it as and R1 comma R2. It is understood that the machine instruction which is been specified here, it is need to going to perform the logical operation, that is and, on the registers R1 and R2. And again the sum will be going to stored in your destination register R2. This is how your machine instruction is also capable of performing the logical operations. So that is one of the additional instruction your machine language is possessing. Fine. So the next type of instruction which is also being used is shift instructions. So there are many applications that require that its operand to move towards its left or towards its right based on the bits position which is been given in your instruction set. Suppose if I want my operand to shift 2 bits position towards my left or to shift 2 bits position towards my right, means I will be going to use the instruction which is called as your shift instruction. Again in your shift instructions there are two types of variations, that is the first variation is logical shift and the second variation is your arithmetic shift. So what is this logical shift as well as your arithmetic shift? As you already know, for general operands which is been given in your binary format, you will be using up with simply an logical shift. When coming upon with the numbers, that is your signed numbers, for signed numbers you need to preserve always the sign bit of a number. If it is a positive number, you will be representing it as a 0 in a binary form. If it is a negative number, you will be representing it by 1, isn't it? So to maintain the sign bit of your operand, you will be going up with your arithmetic shift. That is why you will be using two types of shift operations or shift instruction. The first type of shift is logical shift and the second type of shift is your arithmetic shift. Both these shift operands can perform the left shift as well as your right shift. So let's look upon a simple examples how this shift operation operates. Fine. So coming on to the first type of shift instruction, that is your logical shift. So logical shift, that is I will be representing it as L shift. L shift means it is a logical shift. Again I have been representing here as L. It is understood that L shift L means logical shift left. So I need to shift the operands left side. So how many bits I need to be shifted, that also will be specified in the instruction itself. So L shift L, R3 register shift 2 bits towards the left position. So that is why the general format of shifting the operand is, this will be a carry flag R3 register and you will be shifting the operands towards the bits position. Fine. Consider a simple example 0 1 1 1 0, again 0 1 1. This is the R3 register which has been stored in your binary format. Now in the instruction what it is being told, I need to shift the operands 2 bits towards left. So what I am doing, I will be shifting my bit position towards left. Here it is been present with 0. This is a carry flag 0. Next I will be shifting 1 bit position towards left. Again it becomes 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. This all got shifted. 0 which after shifting this has been lost. So last bit which is been lefted out with the operand, I will be filling up with zeros. Fine. So again one shift is got over, second shift I will be performing. Again 0 has been kept here, now it has been get lost. Again the 1 is been got shifted here, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. Again this in the first shift I had got 1 zeros in the last bit position, isn't it? Again in the second bit position I will be replacing with another shift. So this is how your logical left shift gets operates. The same way the logical shift right gets operates. The only thing here you will be shifting towards the left position, there you will be shifting towards the right position. While shifting the bits which is been lefted out in your logical shift, you will be filling up with zeros. First I had it filled with single 0 and again I got with the vacancy of another bit in the second shifting operation. Again I fitted out with the second 0. This is how your logical shift operation gets operates. So the next type of shift instruction, that is logical shift right. The same operation which you will be carrying towards left, you will be carrying out towards right. So the general format is shift the operands 2 bits position towards right. That is why it is been written as L shift R R3 hash 2. So I need to shift 2 bits position. So first shift I will be losing the operand 0. First carry flag will be fitted with 1. Again I shifted all the operand. In the second shift again 1 comes here, 0 and 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. This was first. In the first shift I got an empty bit position, so I filled with first 0. In the second shift I got another empty bit position, so again I filled with 2 zeros towards the left of my encoded mission instruction. Fine. This is how your logical shift left and logical shift right gets operates. Fine. In the logical operation, logical shift is being going to carry out for general operands that is being represented in your binary format. Fine. Why you will be going to move on to the arithmetic shift? The only difference is in your arithmetic shift the sign bit is being preserved. So always the sign bit is being represented by the MSB of your mid position, isn't it? So again the arithmetic shift left or arithmetic shift right can be operated. Left is you are shifting the bit position towards left, right means you are shifting the bit position towards right. The same operation gets operates in your arithmetic shift also. So now let us look at with a simple example. The general format is R3 and the carry out flag. Here I have been represented the arrow mark towards or back to this right, isn't it? After shifting my bits towards right, in this example I will be shifting 2 bits towards right. So I will be get 2 empty bits towards my leftmost position. So in the leftmost position in the logical shift, what I was doing, if the empty bits which has been lefted out, I will be filling up with zeros, isn't it? That was you will be carrying out in your logical shift. Whereas in your arithmetic shift, it is being preserved for the sign bit. So you will be filling up with the sign bit which is being specified in the instruction before. Here it is been represented with 1, the sign bit has been fitted or it has been filled with 1. So I will be maintaining the same sign bit to all the emptied bits which is been shifted out. Fine, understood. That is the only difference between your logical shift and your arithmetic shift. In your logical shift, the empty bits will be filled up with zeros. In your arithmetic shift, the empty bits will be filled up with the sign bit of a number. If the sign bit is 0, you will be filling the empty bits with zeros. If the sign bit is 1, you will be filling up the empty bits with 1. isn't it? Fine. This is the difference between your logical as well as your arithmetic shift. Again, coming on to this example, R3, I will be shifting 2-bit position towards right. Why? Because arithmetic, A represents for arithmetic, shift right 2-bit position. So this carry bit flag is been lost. 0, 1, again zeros, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. This is the first bit position which got emptied. So I am filling up this empty bit position with 1. Why? Because my sign bit in the previous instruction is 1. So I am filling the empty bit with 1. Again, second shift operation, this 0, again this 0 gets shifted out, and this 1 is being fitted with carry flag. 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. This is my first shift bit, and now again in the second shift again I got one empty bit. So again I am filling this empty bit with 1. Fine. This is how you will be carrying out the arithmetic shift right operation. The same way you will be carrying out with left shift operation. The difference is you will be moving the operands towards your left, and again you will be filling up with the empty bits with the sign of the number. Fine. This is how the shift instructions get operates. Next, coming on to your rotate instructions. Here in the shift instruction, what you were observed is whichever the bits you are shifting and the left the bits which is being present in your carry flag, which will be get losted. So if you want to retain the bits which is been coming out of the operand, means next you will be moving on to a next variation of instruction, that is your rotate instruction. What is the purpose of using the rotate instruction is, rotate instruction is used to preserve the coming out bits from the operands. The bits which is been lefted out or which is been emitted from the operand will be again rotated back to the operand itself. To preserve all the bits of the operand, you will be using up with your rotate instructions. Fine. So again in your rotate instruction there are two types of variations. So let's look upon how the rotate instruction gets operates. Coming on to the next variation of your rotate instruction, as I already told, rotate instruction is being used to preserve the bits of the operand. Whichever the bits which is being get losted by shifting, you will be get preserving the bits by rotating back to the operand. So again coming in your rotate instruction, there are two types of variation, that is rotate with carry and rotate without carry. So the very first is here, which I have been written here, is rotate left without carry, and again rotate left with carry. Again, as in your shift instruction, you can rotate the instruction towards left or towards the right bits of the operands. So how this example gets operated, the very first variation here I have been written here is rotate left without carry. So I am not considering my carry bit flag. So here, which is here the general format which is been represented here, here is an operand R3, which is here is carry flag. Why I have been written the arrow mark towards here is I am not considering the carry bit. So which is been present in your carry bit, only I will be shifting it out, but I am not considering back to my rotate operation. That is why it is been called it as without carry. Here what the instruction is being specified, rotate L, that is rotate towards left bit the R3 register 2 bits position. So now the example which is been given here is 0 1 1 1 0 0 1 1. So I need to shift towards left 2 bits position. So I am shifting 2 bits position. First bit I have been shifted here. Before it was the format like this. First bit I have been shifted here, which is here 0, which is been shifted here to the carry flag, towards my carry flag. So I am not considering it. This is the first bit I have been shifted out, isn't it? So after sending it to my carry flag, I should not lose my bit. What I need to do? I need to send it back to my operand bit. So the first bit which I have been send it out, come and fit into the next emptied bit which is been specified here. This 0 after sending to carry flag, again it come and fit into the empty bit position. This is my first bit operation. Again I need to shift out 2 bits, right? So I am performing the second bit position. So now this bit is been now shifting it out. Now this first bit is been comes to carry flag. After coming it out, this first bit is being fitted on to the empty bit that is been specified here. So now this 1 1 0 0 1 1 and 0 1 is being the shift instruction which is being specified here, that is here 0 1. This 0 come and fit in the first shift operation, first rotate operation, and second 1 bit come and fit into the second rotate operation. This is how you will be considering the rotate operation without considering the carry bit flag. Fine. Now coming on to the second variation, if I need to consider my carry flag, how it get operates? The same way it get operates by I need to consider the carry bit also. So here it was, before it was here 0 bit, this does not got rotated back to my operand. So hence it is been got wasted out or lost out. But now I need to consider the carry flag also. So that is why my general format is, I will be considering the carry flag also in the first bit position itself. If whatever the bit which is been present here, that will be rotated back to my operand. So again the same is being carried out. So rotate left carry, LC means I need to consider the carry bit also. So LC R3 #2. So I need to shift towards left considering the carry bit also 2 bits position. So again 0 1 1 1 0 1 0 1 1. So now I am considering the carry bit also. So when this bit got shifted out here, this 0 bit come and fit into the first empty bit of my operand. In the second bit, here 1 was here, so now 1 got shifted to carry flag, and again now this 0 come and fit to the second empty position of the operand. So here 0 1, here 0 0. What the variation I can found it out here? Here I am including the carry bit also, but here so I am not including the carry bit, so I got the 1. But here this one is the operand which was been specified here. But here I am considering the carry flag also. That is the difference between the rotate left without carry, rotate left with carry. So if you need to specify with carry means you will be specifying it as LC. C means with carry. The same type will be carried out for right shifts also, sorry, right rotate also. Here you will be shifting all towards left, here you will be shifting all the bits towards your right position. So again the general format is R3C. It is without carry. Again with carry means again I need to consider the carry flag also. In this example I have been written as 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 0. So after shifting my bit position, 0 is been got lost, 1 is been got shifted here. After shifting, what? This 1 position come and fit into the empty bit position of your operand. Why? Because I need to rotate it. So again it came and rotate and fit this empty position. Now if you shift 1 bit means the last bit will gets emptied out, isn't it? So this 1 and come and fit into this position. Again in the next shift operation, why? Because I need to shift 2 times. So in the next shift 1 again this 1 will come and fit into here. This again carry flag will be losted. Now this 1 come and fit into the second empty position, that is in your operand. So this is without carry, and with carry means again the which you have performed in your left rotate also the same thing you will be performing with right rotate. So your general format will be changes as you will be including your carry bit. So you will be including your carry bit also. So now here this 0 bit will be come and fit into this position, and this will become as 1. Why? Because I am considering the carry flag also. So it becomes 0 and this becomes as 1. So you will be also representing the rotate RC R3 hash 2 means RC means rotate right with carry. Here rotate R means only rotate towards right without considering the carry bit. Here rotate RC means I will be considering my carry bit and then I will be rotating my bits of the operands. Fine. This is all about your additional instructions, that is your logical instruction, shift instruction and your rotate instructions. So moving on to the next topic, that is your encoding the machine instructions. What do you mean by encoding the machine instruction? Coming on to the encoding of machine instruction, as you already know, whatever the mnemonics and the constituents of the rules on their mnemonics, you will be calling it as assembly language. But the computer does not understand any the higher level languages, so you need to convert the source program to your assembler program. To your object program. So in the last section we had discussed about the same topic. So the system software which is been responsible for converting of your source program to your object program is your assembler. So the assembler is being responsible for all those things. So the language or the object program which is being converted, which will be in the compatible to the machine instructions, which will be in zeros and ones. So that should be always encoded in a certain format, isn't it? So why? Because consider a simple example, add R1 comma R2. So I need to encode this instruction into the machine language. So I need to reserve certain bits position to what? Store my opcode and my operand and the destination operand also. Again coming on to the second example, move 24 R0 comma R5. Here I have been which type of addressing mode it is? If you are written with an enclosed with the bracket the register, it is understood it is an indirect addressing mode. But if I specify with a constant value means it is an index addressing mode. So here I have been given with an in what indexed addressing mode. I need to save my the operand opcode operation which is move, and also I need to store the registers R0 and R5 which is your source and destination registers, and also I need to store up my the offset or displacement value. These are all the things I need to get converted into my machine instruction to get compatible to execute my program. So before I need to convert my source program to object program, I am encoding those instructions into the machine instruction format. So there are general formats which will be specified, so that you need to fit all these instructions, that is the source program, into your machine language program using these general formats. So there are three types of format. If it is an one word instruction, then what it will be a general format. 8 bits will be preserved for your opcodes. It might be an add, move, subtract, return, anything, whatever the instruction or the opcode or the operation it need to get performed, 8 bits always preserved for your opcodes. Next, the 7-bit and 7-bit positions will be preserved for your source operand as well as your destination operands, and the remaining 10 bits out of 32-bit position you will be using this other informations. Either it might be for your immediate values which is being present in your instructions, or it might be any of the other informations. You will be preserving the last 10 bits for that purpose. So the general format to write a one word instruction will be 8 bits for opcode, 7 bits for source and destination registers, and the last 10 bits will be preserved for the other informations. It might be the index index source register means you can use for the immediate value to get stored out, or any memory address if you have specified in your instruction means that addresses can be get stored in the additional information field. Fine. Again, if you are using up with 2-word instruction set means the same general format, whereas a slight changes in it. So opcode, source and destination. Again 8, 7, 7 and 10 bit is been preserved for this instructions. So 8-bit is being reserved for your opcode, source, destination and other information, and again if you are using a 2-word instruction means you can use the second word for your memory address mapping or the immediate operands if you have specified in your instructions. If you are going up with the complex instruction set of computers, you can use up with this 2-word instruction set format. Fine. And the last type is if you are using up with 3 operands in a single instruction. So again you can reserve the bits for opcode. R1 is for the first register, R2 second register and R3 is the third register, and finally the other informations you can carry out. Fine. Understood? This is how the general format of your machine instructions will be carrying out. So before converting or if before running up your program, you need to convert your source program to object program. So into converting your object programs, you will be following certain general formats to convert it into your binary opcodes, binary formats. So every bit is being preserved for opcode, source registers, destination registers, and also you will be having the additional bits preserved. Why? Because if any additional informations you need to get stored it out means you can make use of these other field or other information fields. Fine. This is all about your encoding machine instructions. Fine. Moving on to the next topic of this module. Yes, the last topic of this module is your subroutines. So what do you mean by a routine? So specific task is being given to you, so that routine will be applied many times in your program. Means instead of executing the same thing many times, you will be writing the task in a separate location and calling up that task again and again in your program will be called it as your subroutines. So that is why a routine which is being called in your main program, so that is your sub program. So that is why you will be calling it as subroutines. So subroutine is nothing but the given task which is been having the set of instructions which is being called by the calling program will be called it as the subroutines. So when the subroutine will be called it out, the program execution gets altered immediately and it will be shifting on to the memory location where the subroutine is being present, and it will be executing the instructions of your subroutine. At the end of the subroutine, the return instruction is being executed. When the return instruction is being executed, it will be returning back to the main program, that is your called program. Fine. So here is a simple memory mapping of your subroutines. This is the memory location 200. So now it is calling upon your subroutine which presents in the 1000 memory location. So coming on to the first instruction of your subroutines, it get executed all the subroutines instruction. At the end, it gets executed with the return instruction. As soon as it encounter with the return instruction, it gets shifted back to the main program. Here the next instruction will be present in the 204 machine instruction. Again it goes back to the main program which is get halted to execute the subroutine will get resumed back. So this type of subroutine execution will be called it as subroutine linkage method. Why? Because I am linking my subroutine to the main program. I need to execute the same instructions in my main program many times. Instead of executing many times return in the main program, the memory location will be simply wasted. So what I will be doing, I will be writing in a separate memory location and I will be calling up that routine. So that is why it is called it as your subroutine, and this type of method will be called it as subroutine linkage method. So when the calling program is being called and your main program gets halted, it should remember the address at which the memory is being, at which the program execution has been halted. So you will be having an register which will be storing the address of the memory location where your main programs gets halted, and when it is completed its instruction and when it encounters the return instruction and when it shifting back to the main program, it will be stored in the link register. So you will be storing the contents of the memory address of the main program where it is been altered, and it will be taken out and you will be executing the main memory execution. So the register that is been responsible to link the main program and your calling program or the subroutine program will be called it as your link register. Fine, understood? And also there is another variation in your subroutines. So after executing the subroutine, the return instruction is been encountered and you return back to the main program. There is also a possibility that you can have the subroutine nestings. What do you mean by nesting? So subroutine nesting is nothing but there is another subroutine after calling the first subroutine. First comes with the main program. I called upon with the subroutine program, isn't it? After finishing the execution of my subroutine, I am returning back to my main program. This was a simple single subroutine linkage. But in the subroutine nesting, what happens? You will be having the main program and you will be called for a subroutine. After encountering with the return, you will be not returning back to another main program. What you will be doing? You will be going to the next subroutine. So this type of subroutines you will be calling it as subroutine nesting. So one thing you need to remember now here, in the link register what you were be storing? You were storing the address of the memory location where the main program gets halted. But now after executing the first subroutine, you are not returning back to the main program. You are moving on to the second subroutine. So now you need to save two memory locations, that is the first main program location and second subroutine program location. Why? Because you need to return back to your main program. So that is why you will be storing these memory addresses in the type of stack data structure called as stacks. Why? Because the last one address which is being stored will be the first one to return back, isn't it? So you will be using the LIFO order. So the last address which is been entered into your stack frame will be the first one to coming back to the another subroutine. So that is why to store up the link registers of your main program and your subroutines, you will be using up your stack frames, so that you can easily save all the addresses which you have been altered and you can easily resume back to that subroutine, and again from that subroutine you can shift it back to your main program. Fine. And the exchange of informations between your main program and the subroutine program will be called it as parameter passing. So whatever the informations you are exchanging between your main program and your subroutine program will be called it as your parameter passing. And here is a simple example how the informations get exchanged between your calling and program and your subroutine program. The same example which we had discussed in your previous sections, that is your addition of n numbers is being carried out here. The calling program move n comma r1, that is the number of count is being stored in r1 registers, move hash num1 comma r2. The first element of the memory address will get stored out to your R2 registers and call list add. Here the subroutine name which I have been given here is your list add. Now the subroutine is being called it out and you will be coming back to your subroutine. You will be saving the address of the main program in your link register and the main program is altered and you are starting the execution of your subroutine, that is clear R0, add R2 plus comma R0, decrement R1. Why? Because I need to reach up with till 0 till my condition gets fails, branch 0 to loop return. As soon as I encounter with my return instruction, it is understood that I am completed with my subroutine program. I need to return back to the main program where I have been got halted, and I need to resume back it. So in the link register, I will be saving my memory address of the main program halted addresses. Next I will be taking that address and I will be resuming my main program, and next I will be whatever the sum which I have been calculated here in R0 will be shifted on to another label called as sum. This is how your subroutine program operates. Fine. Instead of executing the same instruction many times, I will be keeping this instruction in a separate memory location and I will be executing the main program. Whenever I need that instructions to get executed, I will be calling the subroutine, and after that I will be returning back to my main program. This is all about your subroutines, and this ends up with your module 1. Fine. We shall meet up with the next class. Thank you all.